What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be changing the oil and rotating the tires on my Infiniti FX35. While I have the car up on the lift, I'm going to be taking a look at the power steering drain plug. I started having a leak on my power steering about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I put it up on the lift, found that that drain bolt was just a little bit loose, so I tightened it up and it seemed to fix it for a while, but it's starting to drip again. So I'm going to be checking that out. Plus, I got a new sound, a mystery sound in the rear. I'm going to be checking it out while it's up there as well. So the sound I've been hearing is whenever I am at low speed and hitting the brakes, it sounds like a brake pad maybe is worn out, but that's strange because I replaced the brakes on this not too long ago. It's probably been maybe 2 years ago, and there hasn't been any other indication such as squealing that you would normally hear whenever brake pads get low. I'm just going to try and drive this down the driveway real quick just to see if you can hear this on camera. So hopefully you all could hear that. That's the sound I'm hearing, so I'm going to get ready to put this car up on the lift. By the way, you might hear some rattling in the back. That's just a bike rack that I have on my car, which is a little annoying at times at low speed in such a place like a parking garage or something like that. But normally I don't really hear it that much when I'm driving down the road at normal speeds. So this is where my power steering fluid has been leaking. When I first noticed this, it set here for maybe a couple weeks before I really got a chance to take a look at it. But I just coated this floor not too long ago, just a couple months ago, and I can't believe that this power steering fluid actually stained the floor. There's a couple drops here, as you can see I'm wiping up, but there's only been 3 drops here since I last did this. But some of these old places here have already stained the floor, so yeah, I didn't realize power steering fluid was that nasty, because this epoxy shield's supposed to protect against any of this, and it hasn't against this, so. One thing I always try to do whenever I'm doing an oil change on my car is to get the car as close as possible to the oil drain pan to minimize any splashing and spillage. And whenever I go to remove the oil drain plug, I always try to get the drain pan in position so that the oil, when it comes out, will go to the center of the pan. This oil has about 3,200 miles on it. I try to change my oil between 3,000 and 3,400 on this car, even though the factory recommendations call for longer intervals. But being that this VQ is the same thing in my G35 that I had, the oil was always dark. That car I drove pretty hard. This one I do not drive that hard very often. I normally just like to cruise in this, but yet the oil is still dark, and I believe that's due to the tight tolerances on this vehicle and the amount of heat that this engine package creates. I really feel like this motor could benefit from an oil cooler. I know that's a common upgrade on a lot of these cars, or possibly maybe even a bigger radiator. I had my radiator go out a few years back, and whenever I ordered the new radiator, I had to order one online from Amazon, and the core was probably about 75% thicker than the one that came out. I had ordered it for the towing package, since I do towing with this car, but it has an aftermarket tow hitch, so I believe that was the difference and why the radiator was larger. Now I'm going to prep this new oil filter, get ready to put it back on. So I'm just going to get a little fresh oil, rub it around the ring here just a little bit. And I'm going to clean up the oil filter housing, just making sure this is all nice and clean. And then I can put on my new oil filter. And I like to turn this about 3/4 turn once the seal meets the housing. That's what I find is optimal for making sure this thing doesn't leak, yet being not so tight that you got to get a wrench or something like that to put on here to get this oil filter off the next time you change your oil. And then I just want to torque this down real light to about 10 or 12 foot-pounds, maybe a little more, but check your manual. I just know by feel what feels right and works well with this car. Now I'm going to check out the power steering drain plug. It does look like there's a little bit of oil around this, like I saw last time. Although you could see I had this pretty well cleaned up right around the plug previously. Like I said, I'm not sure why this is leaking again. I thought I had gotten it pretty tight last time. Let's see how it is this time. So it's slightly loose maybe. I don't want to over tighten it and strip the threads. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Probably what I'll have to do if this continues to leak is pull this out, check the threads on everything, make sure they're good and clean. With any of these drain plugs, whenever you are working with any of these surfaces that are oiled, whenever you're torquing stuff, it's really easy to strip threads, so you don't want to over tighten the drain plugs. So hopefully that'll fix that for now. Now I'm going to take a look at these brakes. This side still has a decent amount of pad left, it looks like. But I think the sound is coming from this side. And it looks like the pad on the inside may be gone on this one. It's hard to kind of see with this dust shield on here. I wish it didn't cover the entire back side of the rotor, but I've got one little area right here where I can see the back side of the rotor, and it looks like it's being gouged by the backing of the brake pad. And yeah, I can feel a groove on that. So hopefully this caliper isn't bad. Being that it's just one pad out of the rear, hopefully this caliper doesn't have a seized piston. But this is an older vehicle. It's 2011, so it's very possible. I'm going to do some research on this and see what I can find, because whenever I bought this vehicle, the brakes were pretty well shot. I upgraded the front brakes here to the sports brakes used on the 370Z. These rotors are like 3/4 of an inch bigger than what was on here before, with a much bigger caliper, dual piston, and it made a huge difference in stopping force. I believe these were on maybe the sport models. Mine has the premium package with heated and cooled seats, but it had the smaller brakes. So what I did is I sourced these calipers and rotors from a 350Z through the auto parts store. So basically a refurbished rotor, new caliper, new pads, and it made a huge difference in stopping power. With my 18-inch wheels, this caliper would not fit, so I had to get these 25mm wheel spacers, which actually made a big difference in how this car handled. It handled a lot better. I wasn't really expecting it to be such a difference. It was nice because it moved the wheels out of the wheel well and kind of flushed them up as well. But I only did this on the front. I did not do the back at that time, and I ended up just replacing the pads. So I might see what it would take to upgrade this caliper if it feels like it's frozen. So I'll check into that. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and put the wheels and tires back on, take a look at some parts before I really dig into all this. So it looks like I'll have another project to do. One thing I wanted to mention about this brake upgrade I did, whenever I did do that, I noticed that the pedal traveled further before the brakes began to engage. It felt like the pedal was soft. At first I was worried that there was an issue, but I've never had a problem with it. In the almost 3 years I've had these on here, it just seems to be that because of the larger caliper, you have to move more fluid, which made the brake pedal travel further. So whenever you're doing this upgrade, you may want to consider adding some braided lines, or maybe look into upgrading the brake master cylinder, which is something I have not looked into, so I'm not even quite sure if it's possible on this vehicle, but that's one thing to consider. So now I'm going to go ahead and drop down the car and refill the oil. One thing you always want to do is go back and torque all your lug nuts to the factory recommendations. I've owned mostly Jap cars in my life, and so about 90 foot-pounds is good. I've had a F-150, I think it was like 100 or 110 foot-pounds. And I even heard people recommend that you go back and check them after driving for about 25 miles. In one case, I did have lug nuts work their way loose after driving for a little while, a couple weeks I believe it was. It's been a while back. But obviously you don't want to lose your wheels while you're going down the road. guys. I hope that helps some of y'all out there, and I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to hit that like button and subscribe. Working on some other projects right now, but hopefully I can get a project car in here sometime in the next few months. So if you're interested in seeing that, be sure to stay tuned. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day, and until next time.